Good afternoon, Norman. Thanks for joining us.
Coming up, the first in a three-part series on euthanasia.
And an important fundraiser is coming up in Norman.
Time to wash your cars. We got no rain for the next few days and warmer temperatures. Your complete forecast in a bit.
And the OU baseball team tries to regroup after a tough weekend. We'll have that and more later in sports.
News, weather, and sports.
All headed your way right now on Norman Today.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Faith Johnson.
And I'm Robbie Gunn. A judge has ruled hundreds of confidential tobacco industry documents must be presented against the industry. The 800 documents the tobacco industry lawyers claim are confidential have been released and published on the internet. The lawsuits are an effort to take back millions of dollars from the tobacco industry that states claim they've spent in treating tobacco-related illnesses. The lawsuits accuse the nation's major tobacco companies of deceiving the public about the health risks of smoking. The Moore Police Department will be increasing its use of the Cleveland County Detention Center by restructuring a plan that will leave fewer personnel to oversee the Moore Jail. The restructure involves moving 12 police dispatchers from the police department to join Moore's emergency dispatch team of firefighters and weather watchers. Inmates of the Moore Jail will be transported to the Cleveland County Jail when personnel are limited. Currently, Moore transports about 250 people to the Cleveland County Jail.
The right to die is an issue that makes headlines on a regular basis. Euthanasia is about making a decision between life and death. Death is often something feared, but to some, it is a welcome end to pain and suffering. Euthanasia is a Greek word that means good death.
We're often talking about whether or not a patient should be able to determine that it's time for their life to end, and whether it's possible for doctors to be able to determine that about patients.
There are two different types of euthanasia, active and passive.
When we talk about passive euthanasia, we're talking about just letting someone die. And when we talk about active euthanasia, in most general terms, we're talking about killing someone directly.
Although experts sometimes distinguish between active and passive euthanasia, Chaplain Harry Moore says death is death.
I think helping or causing someone to die, regardless, is still an act of helping them to die.
A patient's decision about euthanasia is a difficult one. It's one that depends on quality of life and dying with dignity.
When you talk about euthanasia, you're talking about the quality of life. People are very individualistic. Each person's view of quality of life is different from other individuals. And that's a right everyone should get to have.
What is quality of life? Most people don't want to think about it. But medicine is allowing us to live longer, not necessarily better, but to live longer. And a lot of tough decisions are going to have to be made.
Medical doctor Steve Smith says the quality of life issue does not justify euthanasia.
Talking about quality of life and then transferring that over into, therefore, do I have the right to stop that life is totally two different things.
Moore says each situation must be examined on a case-by-case basis. Faith Johnson, Norman Today. In Part 2 of The Right to Die, Norman Today will look at some of the legal issues facing euthanasia.
Plans are being proposed to revitalize downtown Norman. Consultants presented 5 alternatives to benefit Norman. The alternatives include property enhancement, a cultural arts theme without a convention center, a cultural arts theme with a convention center, upscale commercial development, and residential development. The consultants will consider the comments made by residents and come up with a more detailed plan. They will present the alternative this week. Norman Public Schools won the 1998 What Parents Want Award. The award places the district in the top 14% of the nation's more than 15,000 school systems. This is the second straight year Norman Public Schools received the award, and the second national award this school year. In January, the district was recognized as the only gold medal winner in Oklahoma by the national magazine Expansion Management.
A night of food, prizes, and fundraising for a cure will occur on April 24th. Norman Today's Rachel Hately reports on a fundraising project here in Norman which will bring citizens together.
Norman High School will be hosting the American Cancer Society's 7th annual Relay for Life on April 24th and 25th. The 18-hour event is a celebration of life for cancer survivors and their families. Throughout the day and night, local relay teams will be walking the school's track to raise money to fight cancer.
Thank you every day, and this is the way I try to give back, because I like to tell people that someone raised money to do the research that saved me.
The Relay for Life begins Friday night at 6 p.m. with the Survivors Walk. Long believes this is one of the most emotional parts of the event because survivors realize how fortunate they are to be able to participate.
People who will walk who probably are surviving a week or two. We have people who are just out of surgery, and they look at the other people, and this is why it's so important to say to people, if you're a survivor, even if it's kind of out of your mind right now, come and show the new people.
Cancer Society staff member Shelley Hogan says the event is community-based, and she plans to join the Norman citizens in the stands as they cheer on their survivors.
Survivors who participate in the opening lap will be from Norman, or have some connection here. They may have gone through treatment at Norman Regional Hospital, and so therefore have found out about the event here.
Later Friday evening, a luminary service will be held in honor of those who have survived and succumbed to cancer. Hogan believes it will be a time of reflection and hope for a future cure. Rachel Hately, Norman Today.
For every dollar raised during the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life, 70 cents will be used to fund research, education, and treatment. Representatives are pedaling for prevention today. Freshman and senior House members will compete in a tricycle race at 1 o'clock today. The race will be on the north side of the state capitol. And as part of 100,000 Miles for Children, this year's Pedaling for Prevention campaign. After the race, a joint House Senate will pass a resolution acknowledging the child abuse problem in Oklahoma.
The state Senate gave final approval to a bill mandating coverage of mental illnesses by health insurance companies. Senate Bill 1059 was approved 33-12. The bill requires that group plans provide equal coverage for people with such illnesses as schizophrenia, bipolar, and major depression. Unlike bills in other states, the measure does not include alcohol and substance abuse treatment. The bill exempts policies that would increase premiums more than 3% to meet the mandate. Dozens of crime victims tried to urge lawmakers Monday to pass a tough truth and sentencing criminal justice reform bill. Members of various crime victims groups met with lawmakers to voice their concern about the crime bill, passed last year, that sheriffs and others have said is soft on crime. A bill to strengthen last year's measure is pending in the legislature, but lawmakers concerned about the measure's cost may strip it. Statistics prepared by Corrections Department analysts indicate the bill would cost nearly $961 million more during the next 10 years. Coming up,
David Keller joins us now in the Weather Center for a quick look at the forecast. David?
We're trying to rebound from a lousy Monday, but it looks like temperatures are going to be just below normal today, but we'll be in the 80s in no time. Your details after this.
Heaven's thunder when the nation calls. You can make a difference and be a part of it all. If you're able to pay the price, you can. Willing to sacrifice, you can. Adventure, helping, service in the Army National Guard, you can.
Find yourself in the Army National Guard, serving 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year, and you'll find an extra paycheck, money for college, and all the adventure you can handle. It's a great way to serve your country and community. Call 1-800-GO-GUARD.
If you're ready to pass the test, you can. An American at your best, you can. Adventure, helping, service in the Army National Guard. In the Army National Guard, you can.
It's only a little motor oil.
What difference is one drop of paint going to make?
This much fertilizer isn't going to pollute anything.
You're looking at a sea of excuses, created drop by people like you and me. Our waters can be saved if each of us does their part. Drop by drop. If we all do a little, we can do a lot. Brought to you by the Natural Resources Defense Council, the EPA, and the Ad Councils of the U.S. and Japan.
My son Daku was riding a motorcycle when he was struck by a car. I had spoken to him previously about donating his organs, and it made it so much easier for me to make the decision. I knew that this is something that he wanted. I didn't have to feel guilty about making the decision, doing something that he may not have wanted. Every day I tell people, talk it over. You must let people know what you want.
Oh, no.
David Keller joins us now with the weather. David, it's been pretty cool these past couple of days. Can we expect it to warm up at all?
We were at least 10 degrees below normal yesterday, but it is going to warm up tomorrow, and into Friday we'll be in the 80s. But outside right now, we're under clear skies. There's rain and clouds and that came through yesterday have moved off to the east and left us with a beautiful day. Clear blue skies. We'll warm up just to around normal. That's about 74 degrees. But right now, 59 degrees outside, 55% relative humidity. Pressure is at 30.01, 31 inches. There I go. North winds at 10 miles an hour. That's going to keep us a little on the cool side. Now, we were just at 59. Yesterday, our high was at 59, so it's a pretty safe bet we'll be warmer than yesterday. 41 was our low yesterday. Average low is 74 and 51. So we were way below normal yesterday. That was because of the rain and kept the temperatures on the cool side. 90 degrees is our record in 1965, and what a difference a year makes. 34 is the record low in 1966. So currently, storm system moved off low pressure. That brought us all that rain yesterday. Left us with a big high pressure here. Now clockwise flow around the high. That's giving us that north wind. It's keeping us a little on the cool side. However, on the other side, that's going to bring in some of this warmer area. See, warm here up in the Dakotas. It's even warmer. They're warmer up there than we are here today. So temperatures will be in the 60s today, 70s to our south. Even the 70s up in North Dakota, 50s in the mountain. It's a little cool up in the upper elevations. Spring has sprung in lower southern Texas, 80s, 90s, and even 100 predicted there for today. So for Norman today, 68 degrees, mostly 60s all through the state, 69 to our south in Ardmore and McAllister. Only cool spot is in Guyman, 58 degrees. For tonight and into tomorrow, we'll get down to 42, so it's still going to be a little chilly. 48 to our south, 37 is the cool spot in Guyman. For Norman today, we're starting to warm up. We're going to be at 68 degrees today. Now tomorrow will be above normal, and Thursday and Friday will be in the 80s, 82, 83 on Friday. So we are starting the warming trend. Tonight and into tomorrow, we are starting to warm up, but we're still a little cool for this time of year. Tomorrow, into tomorrow, we'll get down to about 42 degrees, believe it or not. There it is, 42 degrees. We're still a little chilly. We are starting to warm up, but we can still get a little chilly. 42 degrees, that's below normal. The winds will be light, but as I say, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we got a snowman for our temperature on Saturday, 80 degrees. So tomorrow will be above normal, 78. Lows will even start to warm up into the 50s. Friday and Saturday, 83, 80 degrees. Wind will pick up a little bit on Saturday and Sunday, and we do have a chance of some thunderstorms coming through on Sunday, so no rain for the next 3 days. Wash your cars, but towards the end of the period, we do have some rain, so
Okay,
looks
so
good.
we're not expecting any rain for Friday, though?
No, it'll just be pretty windy. Be pretty windy on Friday.
Okay, but it still looks pretty good for the weekend,
Does look
even
pretty
though
good,
it
yeah.
does look like it might rain on Sunday.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks, David.
All right.
Coming up next on Norman Today Sports. Tonight, both Norman High Schools have their soccer teams in action. Chris Fitzpatrick has details in sports. Stay with us.
what lies ahead, what you want to be. Hands need hands, a hand to reach.
Kids today need extra help to stay in school. Communities and Schools brings Hands in Need together with hands that can help.
Get ready! Adventure training in the Army National Guard. When we move fast. When we train hard. If you're up to the challenge, we'll make it worth your while. Call 1-800-GO-GUARD.
Chris Fitzpatrick joins us now with sports. Chris, the OU baseball team lost a game this weekend. They dropped in the polls,
They lost 3 games this weekend, and yes, they did drop in the polls, but they still are there, and maybe expected them to drop out completely, but they're still hanging on. After being swept by the Nebraska Cornhuskers this weekend, the Oklahoma baseball team fell to 9-7 in conference play and 29-12 overall. The Sooners' 4-game losing streak dropped them 4 spots in the collegiate baseball top 25 poll this week. Miami and Stanford head the polls once again. Baylor drops out of the top 10 as they claim the 12th spot, followed by fellow conference foe Texas A&M. And even the Oklahoma State Cowboys edge ahead of OU. Oklahoma State is at 17. And the 18th ranked Sooners resume action at home today as the Missouri Tigers visit Norman. The teams are scheduled for a doubleheader beginning at 3 o'clock today. Tomorrow, the teams conclude the 3-game series at 3 p.m. as well. All action, as you should know by now, takes place in the one and only L. Dale Mitchell Park, just behind the Lloyd Noble parking lot. And in high school baseball, the Norman North Timberwolves will try to dry up after Monday's rainout against Enid. The Wolves are scheduled to play a road game today at Edmond Santa Fe. That game is set for a 5 o'clock start in Edmond. And after beating Norman last weekend, the Norman High Tigers were hoping to continue their winning ways, but Mother Nature intervened and postponed the Tigers game with Edmond Memorial on Monday night. They'll make it up tonight with a doubleheader against the Bulldogs at Tiger Stadium in Norman. And you won't believe this, all 4 Norman high schools are in action tonight, and not one game is at Alcott Middle School, the soccer mecca of Norman. Norman heads off to Dell City to take on the Fighting Eagles. Boys kick off at 5:30, girls at 7:30, and Norman North travels to Choctaw to try and sting the Yellow Jackets. Boys play at 6, and the girls go at 8. And the city of Norman has the top 4 soccer teams in Oklahoma, according to the rankings. In the first part of a 3-part series, Norman Today Sports' Terry Jones looks at Norman High School North's inaugural season.
The Norman High School North soccer teams are enjoying successful first seasons. The boys team is undefeated, and the girls team has only 1 loss. Boys head coach Brian Young says this season has been an unexpected surprise.
But to go undefeated so far, and especially the competition that we've played, we've went to an Iowa tournament and played a team that hadn't lost in 41 straight games and is a 2-time state champion, one of the top high school programs in the country. And we've played a very difficult schedule down here, and they've done a great job so far.
At the first of the season, like before we started practicing, I really didn't, but once we started playing, I didn't know that we'd be this good once we got everybody fixed in and stuff. So.
Coach Young has the boys ranked #1 in Class 5A, and that's something that he and the players like because other teams don't have any excuses.
I like being #1 because everyone's going after you. It makes us play even harder, too.
Every week that you go out, every game that you play, the other team's going to be ready to play you. And when you beat them, you've beat them with all they've got.
Leading the way for the Timberwolves are Shea Elijah-Wami and Patrick Tanner, who each have double-digit goals. Meanwhile, the girls' lone loss was to Norman High School, but since then, Coach Jay Coleman's team has been able to bounce back.
Kind of relaxed our team. I know it put a lot more expectations on Norman High School. I know they're having to deal with the expectation of everybody thinks they're the best and untouchable. We don't have that. We don't have those kind of pressures on us.
The goal in the end is the same for both teams.
Anything less than a state championship would probably be a disappointment at this point.
I'm hoping we can get there. You know, if we stay focused and we play the way we can, I think we'll be there.
I don't know for the favorite, but we're probably one of those up there at top.
Getting to the final is now the goal. The rematch with Norman High and beating them is really the goal now.
I think we have a really good chance.
We have really good players and a really good team.
I think we've got a really good chance. If we just work hard, we can beat Norman High.
The playoffs begin May 5th. Terry Jones, Norman Today's Sports.
Thanks, TJ. Coming up tomorrow in part 2, Terry will take a look at Norman North's Jennifer Prigmore. And that's it for sports.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Coming up next on Norman Today.
Some people have banded together after the recent tornadoes in Tennessee.
Stay with us.
This is who I am.
I am rich. I am poor. I am middle class. I am a boy.
I am a girl.
I am a girl. This is who I am.
This is who I am.
I am from the city.
I am from the country.
This is who I am. I am. I know exactly what I want to do.
I know exactly who I want to be. I have no idea. No idea.
No idea what I want to do.
I have no idea.
Who I want to be. This is who I am.
No matter who you are or where you're from, the United States Air Force may be the place for you to learn, to grow, and to be successful in life. We can help you. You can help us.
I have potential.
I have potential. My future is unlimited.
I am somebody. I am somebody.
I am somebody.
How do you stop child abuse? Simple. Never let it start. Now there's a program that can help do just that. It's reaching new parents early on, teaching them how to cope with the stresses that lead to abuse. It's achieving unprecedented results. But we need your help. Imagine if we all pulled together what we could have. Call 1-800-CHILDREN today, because the more you help, the less they hurt.
This is not a drill.
Roger, have target in sight.
This is what we do.
Swimmer away.
Every day in the Coast Guard. Battling the elements to save lives is just one of the real missions we tackle.
Swimmer checking victim. Coming up.
Be part of the action in the Coast Guard. Call now, toll free.
Welcome back. I'm Robbie Gunn.
And I'm Faith Johnson. Oklahoma City bombing conspirator Terry Nichols rejects an offer of leniency in exchange for information about the bombing. Nichols says his constitutional right to silence is violated by the offer, since his comments could help a state death penalty prosecution. Last month, U.S. District Judge Richard Mage told Nichols he intends to sentence him to life in prison, unless Nichols helps resolve lingering questions about the bombing. Gun control advocates are using the Jonesboro, Arkansas shooting to take up bills that would ban the sale of some ammunition magazines and require safety locks on guns. Since the March 24th ambush that left 5 dead, gun control advocates have introduced legislation that would close a loophole in the 1994 Crime Control Act. But opponents of gun control said it was wrong to use gun incidents for political purposes.
In Nashville, approximately 70,000 workers returned to work Monday on restoring the downtown area to safety after Thursday's tornado roared through the city. 8 buildings remain closed, red tagged as unsafe. One official says the buildings must be brought up to safety codes or rebuilt. Several larger downtown office buildings were ready to reopen, with cranes still working to replace plate glass windows. The Clinton administration refused on Monday to use federal tax dollars to buy clean needles for drug addicts. Health and Human Services Secretary Donna Shalala says her scientific endorsement should encourage more communities to start their own needle exchanges. Half of all people who contract HIV are infected by needles or by sex with injecting drug users. The decision disappointed AIDS activists who said they couldn't recall another medical program the government had declared life-saving, but refused to try to pay for it.
Authorities say there are no signs anyone survived a plane crash today in Colombia. At least 53 people are believed to have been aboard the Boeing 727. An aviation spokesman says the plane was leased to Air France. It crashed into mountains east of Bogota about 3 minutes after takeoff. It was en route to the Ecuadorian capital of Quito. The flight crew had reported no problems. The reporters say the weather was very foggy at the time of the crash.
Coming up in our final segment of Norman Today.
Some people have found yet another use for the internet.
Stay with us.
Awesome.
When the heavens thunder, when the nation calls, you can make a difference and be a part of it all. If you're able to pay the price, you can. Willing to sacrifice, you can. Adventure, helping, service in the Army National Guard, you can.
Find yourself in the Army National Guard, serving 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year, and you'll find an extra paycheck, money for college, and all the adventure you can handle. It's a great way to serve your country and community. Call 1-800-GO-GUARD.
If you're ready to pass the test, you can. An American at your best, you can. Adventure, helping, service in the Army National Guard. In the Army National Guard, you can.
It's only a little motor oil.
What difference is one drop of paint going to make?
This much fertilizer isn't going to pollute anything.
You're looking at a sea of excuses, created drop by people like you and me. Our waters can be saved if each of us does their part. Drop by drop. If we all do a little, we can do a lot. Brought to you by the Natural Resources Defense Council, the EPA, and the Ad Councils of the U.S. and Japan.
My son, Daku, was riding a motorcycle when he was struck by a car. I had spoken to him previously about donating his organs, and it made it so much easier for me to make the decision. I knew that this is something that he wanted. I didn't have to feel guilty about making the decisions, doing something that he may not have wanted. Every day I tell people, talk it over. You must let people know what you want.
Savvy internet users long ago had recognized the potential of electronic commerce and had turned the internet into a bazaar for themselves.
Now, millions of others have discovered what they have been missing out on.
Online auctions have become a popular place for consumers to buy hot collectibles or simply to find good deals.
There are no fast talkers, million-dollar artworks, or sounds of a gavel.
But in other respects, internet auctions are much like the real thing.
With sales expected to exceed $1 billion this year, cyber auctions are selling everything from computers to collectibles like Betty Boop and old-time baseball cards.
With many bids starting as low as $1, goods at cyber auctions are usually bought below retail, but the highest bidder can come up a loser.
The National Consumers League says 30% of internet complaints involve cyber auction fraud.
The Federal Trade Commission offers these tips to protect consumers against fraud. Pay by credit card, research the seller, try to contact the seller by phone or email before you bid.
And consider using an escrow account. Most cyber auctions are completed without a hitch, but consumers must know what they are getting into or their money could be gone.
Weather for the next couple of days is going to be pretty good.
Looks good. 80 degrees on Thursday and Friday, but rain this weekend maybe. Yeah, there it is. The thunderstorms maybe Sunday, windy on Saturday and Sunday. 80 degrees on Saturday, so the only bad day looks like Sunday.
We'd like to thank you all for joining us today. Join us again tomorrow. Thank you.